Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR, or maybe from some of these other Locked On shows that we do. Don't forget, Locked On Giants postcast starting up in just a few weeks. But for today, man, we got to talk about the 49ers free agency moves. We finally have some real news to talk about with you guys, not just hypotheticals. So we'll go through all of their current moves that they've made in free agency so far and let you know what we think.
Amir Tanosley, USA Today, NFL trending reporter, and I'll be talking about how the Mike Evans signing could impact the 49ers draft focus.
Hey everyone, I'm Dwayne Boyd, four-time Super Bowl champion, and I'm going to bring up the fact that did the 49ers just stick their toes in the water, or did they make a splash when they signed Mike Evans, and can he be a number one receiver for the 49ers?
That is the big looming question. We'll get into that and more today on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show, which starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks to everyone tuning in on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel or listening on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed. We appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you are subscribed. Hit that subscribe button right now if you aren't already subscribed. And guys, let's just start with the biggest news, which is obviously the Mike Evans signing. I mean, this is, on one hand, this is a much needed addition to a position group that was really desperate for some talent. And Mike Evans has a boatload of talent. There's no question about it. One of the most consistent wide receivers in his time in the NFL. But on the other hand, you have a guy who's 32 years old. You just gave him a 3-year deal that's worth up to $60 million. And this is a guy who has had a ton of soft tissue injuries. And I bet that electrical substation right around the corner from the practice facility is just licking its chops right now, looking at its next victim. So you got a kind of a tale of two things happening at the same time with one player. So, Ayrton, what do you think of the signing? Are you a fan of the 49ers bringing in Mike Evans or not?
Initially, I was not a huge fan of this signing just because I looked at the age and I'm like, I don't know. And I looked at the terms of the deal. 3 years seems a little bit long for a guy who's in his early 30s as a wide receiver. But looking at it overall, Mike Evans's game was never built on speed and athleticism as much as it was being a big body, contested catch guy down the field. And for Brock Purdy, a guy that sometimes, once in a while, he just wants to throw the ball up there and trust his guys. I could think of a lot worse guys to trust than Mike Evans. Again, the price, the terms seem a little but as far as a fit for Kyle Shanahan's offense, I like Mike Evans for that as that big-bodied outside wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, no question about it. The dude is athletic monster as far as his size and his ability to just go up and get the ball when he's in contested coverage. Like you said, he's not a guy who's going to generate a ton of separation between him and the coverage. I mean, he's not Brandon Ayuk. He's not going to be running off, snapping off routes that are just leaving guys in the dust. He's a guy that's going to just try to jump over you and bring the ball in. He's bigger than you. He's going to try and high point that ball and bring it down before you get a chance to as a defender. And one thing that does kind of intrigue me is Brock Purdy's red zone efficiency is already very good. He's already a great passer in the red zone. And I think if there's one thing that Mike Evans will add to this offense, it is his red zone threat and his ability to catch balls within that 10-yard range between, the 10-yard line and the goal line. And I think that's going to provide the 49ers with a little bit more versatility down in the red zone. But you got to get down there first, and you got to find a way to move the ball down the field. We've talked endlessly about how much this team lacks speed, and I don't think that this signing helps with that at all. So, Dwayne, same question to you. How are you feeling about this Mike Evans signing?
Well, he's 32 years old, and the injury factor plays in a lot. But the thing that the 49ers lacked, I thought, was the third and intermediate receivers. And it seemed like when it was third down, the intermediate yardage, they didn't have anyone that they could get the ball to if Kittle was out. So he's a big body that hopefully they can make ways to get him open and he can make the catch. And that was one thing that was lacking with them a lot last year. And the red zone is a whole different story, and because the field is shorter, so you can play with the big receivers more. But having a big receiver in a short yardage situation is great. But like you said, he's not going to take the top off of a defense with his speed. He's a possession type receiver, and the guy's he set a record. Only 2 guys ever done it. With the 1,000-yard seasons in a row was him and Jerry Rice, but he's no Jerry Rice.
I mean, anytime that you're in the conversation with Jerry Rice, the GOAT wide receiver, that's a good thing, right? And I mean, I would be a little bit more excited about this signing if he didn't have all those hamstring problems. I mean, this is a issue that has plagued him the last couple seasons, and of course, he had the broken collarbone last year as well. But when I look at the deal, when you look at the 3 years, $60.4 million guarantee or $60.4 million contract, sounds like a lot. But when you look a little bit closer, and you see that it's only $16.3 million guaranteed, that makes me feel a little bit better. It makes me feel like this is a calculated risk. And really, the risk versus reward factor here, when I'm looking at the $16.3 million guaranteed, the risk isn't super high. I mean, the reward of what you could get, I mean, if Mike Evans comes back and he is the Mike Evans that we've seen, like Dwayne said, for the last, whatever it was, 11 consecutive seasons, I think, with 1,000+ yards, sure. I mean, the 49ers will take that in a heartbeat. Plus, you're kind of assuming that Juwan Jennings is now gone. Like, there's no Juwan Jennings in this offense if you bring Mike Evans in there. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Juwan Jennings is a better wide receiver than Mike Evans, even at age 32. I just don't know that that's the case. Maybe Juwan Jennings might be able to do a few things better, such as throwing flea flicker touchdown passes or run blocking or really pissing off every single player on the other team and getting under guys' skin. I don't think Mike Evans does those things nearly as well as Juwan does in some situations. But like you said, like we've been talking about, he's a big guy. He's definitely going to give you something in run blocking on the outside, which is a need if you're the 49ers. I mean, you have to be able to block in the run game if you are a wide receiver on this team. And Mike Evans can certainly do that with his size. And I have a hard time finding another guy who I might trust to just chuck the ball up and say, go get it. Like he is perhaps the best guy at, like, he's always open, even when he's not open, kind of thing. And in the NFL right now, and maybe he's not what he once was, but this is still a guy who's going to probably, if he plays a full season or close to it, he's going to get that 1,000-yard mark in this wide receiver in this 49ers offense. And he is clearly the number one pass catching option to start the season, especially with George Kittle on IR to start the year. So Ayrton, there is that big caveat that I just mentioned, which is if he plays close to a full season, what are your expectations for Mike Evans? I mean, as far as games played, like let's put the line at 8.5, more or less.
Oh, that is close. I'm going to say more just because I think he'll get to 9 or 10. I don't see a full 17 games just because he had hamstring issues, and we've all seen how much the 49ers wide receiver room has hamstring things crop up during the offseason and into the season. So I would say, yeah, we're barely hitting the over on that, not by a long shot.
Yeah, and those types of injuries are so easy to re-aggravate. I mean, once you start getting hamstring problems, it's not like it just stops. This is something that he's going to manage and deal with probably the rest of his career. I mean, I know it's a different sport, but I think of a guy like Lamont Wade Jr. for the Giants, who once he had that hamstring injury a couple of years ago, he was just a shell of himself for the entire rest of his career. I don't know how this guy's still getting signed to major league deals at this point. He can't run. And Mike Evans, while he's not, as he's a much better athlete than a guy like Lamont Wade Jr. for the San Francisco Giants, or when he was on the San Francisco Giants. Mike Evans is still going to be dealing with something that's going to be nagging at him. And he's playing a much more physical game than a guy like Lamont Wade Jr. is. Obviously, football is far more physical than baseball, and it's still going to be an issue. And Dwayne, maybe you can speak to that a little bit. As players get older in the NFL and they start dealing with those soft tissue injuries, like the reoccurring hamstring type stuff, how much does that really, increase their drop off in the league? Like, how quickly do players, start seeing the exit door from the NFL after they start picking up those types of injuries?
Well, I was never fast enough to pull a hamstring, but I was around guys who pulled hamstrings, and it happens a lot. That it becomes chronic. It becomes a chronic injury that's going to pop up and going to keep popping up, and that's one thing that you don't want to have once you get older is hamstring problems. And that's going to, and the thing about pulling the hamstring, it slows you down too. Your speed declines quite a bit. So it's not a thing that you want to be in, have happen to you when you're over in your plus 30s, okay? When you're over 30 years old. You would like, if you're younger, yeah, you might have a chance to come to surpass it. But as you get older, man, it really affects your speed. You don't have that burst like you used to have, It's not like, well, I don't think Jerry Rice ever pulled a hamstring because he was like Forrest Gump. He could run forever, run, Forrest, run. And I don't see that in Mike Evans. He's not a Forrest Gump type guy.
Yeah, it sounds like Mike needs to get out there and start running some of these San Francisco hills once he gets out here. You know what I mean? I saw a guy. I go out on a nice little walk around my neighborhood for lunch. From my day job, I take my lunch and I go walk through Golden Gate Park, and there's a nice little hill in the middle of Golden Gate Park. And let me tell you, almost every day I see this same old dude. And when I say old dude, I mean like this guy looks like he could be pushing 70. And this guy is running hills every day. He's got the biggest calves I've ever seen in my life. Maybe we need to get him and Mike Evans to like link up, and they can get the legs going again. You know what I mean? But man, it's going to be a tough situation to kind of play through all that. And it's not what you want to hear if you're a 49ers fan when you already know the injury history with this team and under Kyle Shanahan, how many injuries there have been with this roster. But the one caveat to that is Mike Evans, we already kind of talked about it. He's not a burner. That's never been his game. He's never been a guy who relies on his speed to get open. So while this is something he's going to be dealing with, I think this is not going to maybe make him drop off as fast as like a Deshaun Jackson. Like once that guy started pulling hamstrings, he was out of the league within a year or two. Mike Evans, that's not going to happen with him because he's still going to be able to jump. He's still going to be able to just be a bigger body than 90% of corners in the NFL. He's just going to be able to go up and pull the ball away from him. And he's strong as hell, man. Like this guy is going to be able to out physical guys, even with that hamstring issue, I think. So going forward, we'll see how healthy he's able to stay, but let's put the health stuff aside for a second. Dwayne, what do you think about the fit in the 49ers offense? I know he doesn't have the speed, but just as far as the fit goes, playing that X receiver position with Brock Purdy at quarterback, with Kyle Shanahan calling plays, and with as bottled up as we saw the run game last year, do you think that Mike Evans will potentially unlock some of this offense and kind of ability to run the ball again and to be able to move the ball a little bit better through the air in this 49ers offense?
Well, I think, they run a lot of RPOs, so I think he will be a great target for the RPOs that the 49ers run because the ball is going to come out quick and get into his hands. And that's the thing with that is the West Coast offense like to get the ball in the receiver's hands quick. So let the receiver run. And that's what he's going to add to the 49ers. He's going to be able to use his body to leverage and get the ball in his hands and make something happen. And it'll take a lot of pressure off the run game too. When guys line up, Brock Purdy sees that somebody's playing off on him, hey, throw him the ball. Make the corner tackle. And it's going to be interesting how in the league, in the conference now, of the corners that the Rams have and the corners that the Seahawks have, man, they need a big receiver like that because all of those guys. You look at the Seahawks secondary; those are big corners, and they're gonna need somebody to match up against them.
Yeah, and I do think that the Rams going out and basically just taking the Kansas City secondary and plugging it into their own system is pretty interesting. But the Seahawks, man, with the 6 DB look that they ran a lot last year, a lot of those guys can both cover and tackle. And like you said, they're big bodies as well. They're not afraid to go stick the nose in there. But it is a little bit, it makes me feel like the 49ers got something to fight back against this a little bit. And he's not Puka Nacua. He's not Jackson Smith and Jigba talent-wise. But he's still able to go do something and contribute and get things done. So, Ayrton, what are your expectations out of Mike Evans in this offense in this coming NFL season?
Yeah, I think it just takes the pressure off of the rest of the wide receiver room and the rest of the weapons on offense in general to carry, with George Kittle likely out for the first month at least, potentially even the first half of the season as he gets back from his Achilles injury. And I think the expectations there is just he's going to be the guy that they can go to when they need a third down. They need to convert. It's like, okay, you know what? Shoot, we're in the red zone. You've seen in the past, we literally had this past season, the Rams struggled in the red zone for multiple years under Sean McVay. They go get Devontae Adams, get a veteran, bigger bodied route runner guy who never relied on his athleticism. And suddenly he's scoring double-digit touchdowns. So he's solving a lot of those red zone woes. So I think Mike Evans is just going to come in, be a red zone threat immediately, be a guy that the offense can really flow through when needed against those better defenses in the NFC West. So my expectations are he's going to be the number one target for a majority of, if not the entire season in the passing game.
And hopefully he lasts that whole season. I just cannot. I saw a meme or go out earlier this week after the 49ers signed him where it was a guy had like a turkey leg, like a barbecue turkey leg, and the meat was just sliding off the bone. And the comment was, this is Mike Evans' hamstring once he gets near that electrical substation at the 49ers practice facility. So hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully the hamstring stays firmly attached to that bone and he can contribute to the 49ers for at least the majority of this season. But he is not the only signing that the 49ers have had in free agency so far. Let's go through a few of the others. I mean, they got Brett Toth, an offensive lineman, Vidarian Lowe, another offensive lineman, a tackle, and they re-sign Eddie Pinheiro, Jake Tonjes, and I just saw, just before we started the show, Sam Okawanu was tendered a contract as well. The 49ers let all of their other restrictive free agents go. They did not tender anyone else a contract, so they're letting go of most of their restricted free agents, but I think that they brought back two of the more important ones in Sam Okawanu and Eddie Pinheiro. So let's start there. Dwayne, the comfortability that you got now that you have a Mike Evans and an Eddie Pinheiro, once you get within that 30-yard line, you're scoring one way or another if you're the 49ers, right? At this point, and that's just got to be a huge relief compared to where this team has been these last couple of years.
Well, the only thing about that is, Eddie, you just hope he's not the last line of defense on the kickoff team. Because, man, somebody teach Eddie how to tackle. You can't go out there and try to, what's this, a soccer slide? But Eddie is Eddie money, so it's a good call there. And you hope that, that with the people that the 49ers are bringing back, like I like the idea of them bringing Sam back. Sam was he was probably finishing second in sacks.
I think
the lead only had 4, so he might have, he have 3 or something like that. So
I think he had 3, which was good enough to probably be top 5 on the 49ers last year, unfortunately. But point being, you can't afford to lose any more pass rushers. You got to beef up that room somehow. And I think that Sam Okawanu, I'm not saying that this guy's a starting caliber rusher. He's not in the NFL. He's a good rotational piece. He's a guy who can get some things done when you have your first line coming out. And maybe he can give you something. Maybe he can give you a little more when he's used in these spot moments where you're not asking him to play 50+ snaps in a game. And he can get out there and empty the gas tank on a play or two and see what he's got. And I do really like that. I think they still need another edge rusher. I don't think that this is, solidified. I don't think that they're done adding pieces and things like that. But so far, the plan of free agency has kind of just seemed to be beef up the reinforcements a little bit, which you're not making outside of the Mike Evans deal any real big splashes. but they are doing some things. So, Ayrton, what do you think of the 49ers moves so far in free agency and kind of the strategy of just building up that depth?
Yeah, I think it's important where coming off the back of a season with so many injuries where the depth was exposed, and it came to the point where a lot of times we're signing street free agents to come onto the field to basically fill in at linebacker and a bunch of other spots. Finding more depth, reliable depth, veteran depth at a lot of those positions is the right way to go. I think it's going to pay off for the 49ers in 2026, regardless of how the injury luck goes. Even if it's a situation where you're rotating guys in, I like these moves. I low-key really liked getting Vidarian Lowe as a left tackle option, an experienced left tackle option. The Patriots going in a different direction, obviously with Will Campbell at left tackle. They're building up the depth there with the new coaching staff that did not select Lowe. So having somebody from that system who's come over now and be a depth piece, regardless of what happens with Trent Williams, he's here. He's not obviously going to be a Pro Bowl level player. Otherwise, the Patriots would have started him at left tackle for the entire season and not Will Campbell. But he provides enough experience, enough quality as a depth piece. I like that signing. I like having him there. Also, I like bringing in Los Gatos High School alum Jake Tonjes, bringing him back. I love to see it. So former Wildcat being a 49er, he did well, I think, in spot starts, taking over in situations where Kittle's out. He proved himself to be, he's not of Kittle's level, but he's definitely a guy where you can sit there and be like, okay, if we don't get a bigger free agent tight end, we don't end up drafting a premier tight end in this class, we're feeling okay about our depth. I really like these moves of just basically being like, we had so much injury bad luck this year. Let's plan ahead a little bit better.
Yeah, and they're hopefully not done adding. I can't imagine that they would be done adding guys already. Obviously, this is the legal tampering period still. We have a lot of free agency left to go. We still got the NFL draft. But there has been a name floated out there that I've seen kind of going around in recent days. Osa Odigizua from the Cowboys, the rusher from the Cowboys. What do you think, Ayrton, about his potential fit with the 49ers? Do you think this is a guy that's maybe worth pursuing in a trade?
I would say so. I liked Odigizua, but he's very much a pass rushing interior defensive lineman. He's a little bit on the leaner side, a little bit on the smaller side. So if you're looking at the 49ers personnel groups and you're like, all right, if we stick him next to Alfred Collins, so we get the 3 down linemen and those penny fronts that Raheem Morris likes to run, where your down linemen are Bosa, Collins, and Odigizua, that could be fun. This is not the best defensive tackle class in the drafts, and this was not a very good free agent defensive tackle group. So the options were pretty limited at a spot of need for the 49ers when it comes to the interior defensive line. So Odigizua, bring him in here as an interior pass rusher. I'd be into that. The question would be, he just signed a deal last offseason, so it's still in the younger days. It's a Cowboys deal, so you could see about how much is guaranteed, what are the outs, how much dead money, how much we would take on from that. But I think Odigizua could be a good fit as long as the price is not too high draft capital wise.
Yeah, in Dwayne, as far as Odigizua and what he might cost and how he might fit into the 49ers system, what would you think would be too high of a pick to give up for him? And do you think that he would fit well into this new penny front that we'll probably see a lot of with Raheem Morris?
Well, for one thing, if he's anything capable of being a great pass rusher or a good pass rusher, Jerry Jones is not going to get rid of him. So you got to be looking for that rattlesnake under the rock with that one, man, because it's going to jump out and bite you. Because I'm telling you, Jerry's not going to let a football player leave, and there's something more to it. Okay, so maybe he doesn't like the food in Dallas. Okay, maybe he doesn't like the work hours in Dallas, or maybe he doesn't like the head coach. There's something to it. So I would be a little skeptical of it. And if he came to the 49ers, well, he would make a good penny rusher, but he wouldn't be an every down run stopper. No, I see him as a guy that that's more of a pass rusher than someone who can play both the run and pass. And what is it going to cost the 49ers too? If they go get him, Jerry's going to ask probably I would say a low second, third round pick for him. So you can't do that. And with the 49ers in the situation that they're in right now, picking at 27th, they can get a good rusher out of this draft who can be better than him, probably, and costs a lot less money too, because I don't know what his cap number is, but I think he's way up there. I mean, he's up there for what he does on the field, I think.
Yeah, and the 49ers are absolutely going to need to at least find some guys to go and backfill from those who have left. Of course, like we said, the restricted free agents that the 49ers did not tender include Kalia Davis, Robert Beal Jr., Teron Jackson, all of which are part of last year's defensive front four. So you have to find a way to replace some of those bodies, even if it's, just a warm body getting in there. And I'd love to see Valdez get a shot, man. I don't know what this guy has to do to make the actual roster and not just be on the practice squad anymore. But we saw this guy show out in preseason last year. I keep seeing workout videos where this guy just is benching crazy amounts of weight. And I mean, there's got to be a spot for him on this team, right? Like he's just huge. He's a physical specimen, and he can at least be as good as like a Teron Jackson, right, Ayrton? I mean, this guy's got to find a spot on the roster this next year.
Oh, easily, yeah. You gotta find a way to get him involved. And I think as well, just looking at this, I think maybe the 49ers were really going for John Franklin Myers, ended up losing out to the to the Titans with him, go reunite with Robert Saleh down there. So I think maybe the price is a little bit high on that, and that's maybe what they were banking on. But it also could be an indication of their belief in Alfred Collins and CJ West. They flashed a decent amount as rookies, so maybe they're kind of like, you know what, that's enough for us to be like, okay, we'll rely on that. We don't need to bring Davis back. Give Valdez a little bit more in the rotation.
Yeah, and we can't forget about Trent Williams also, who showed some progress last year before the injury. And there's one other guy that I just, I saw this a few days ago, and I remembered that I just now popped back into my brain. Dre Greenlaw, back on the market. Dwayne, would you like to see I know it's another very injury-prone guy, and he's kind of lost a step or two since he was with the 49ers, considering all the injuries that he's endured. But would you like to see him back in the red and gold down there at Levi's next to Fred Warner? Maybe they can rekindle some of that chemistry that those two had earlier in their careers.
I would like to see him back. I think he has something to offer. I don't know what happened to him in Denver, but he played quite a bit for the Broncos. But the Broncos on defense, they have some good players too. Okay, but I don't understand why they got rid of him after 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was going to be a mainstay in that Broncos defense, and he's a guy who brings an attitude, who brings a level of violence to a football team, and that's something that you need. We talked about this a lot on this show, is how you got to have an identity, and you got to have a little bit of nastiness on that defensive side of the ball, and the 49ers lack that, like just flat out lack that player who just strikes fear into the offense, and Dre Greenlaw absolutely would strike some fear, especially paired next to Fred Warner. And I think they could use a guy like that could deliver some punishment to the other team. So we'll see if the 49ers maybe kick the tires on that. But we got some other things that we got to get into. We got to talk about how this changes the 49ers' perspective on the draft. We got to talk about some of the other big happenings around the NFL. Of course, the Max Crosby deal falls through with the Ravens. Trey Hendrickson then gets scooped up by the Ravens right after, some suspicious stuff going on there. But ultimately, Max Crosby now available again and potentially at a lower price point. So we got to get into some of these things next on the other side of the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. And, you could probably guess it, peach mango, ripe peach flavor on the first sip. The mango adds that tropical depth and sweetness, which creates a smooth, rounded fruit profile, slightly richer mouthfeel than other citrus flavors, and that sweet aromatic finish. A balanced tropical blend from start to finish. And, if peach mango is off the board, I might go pomegranate, deep, slightly tart pomegranate flavor, a little more sophisticated and less candy-like than some of these other fruit flavors. Subtle fruit bitterness for that complexity in the flavor profile, and balanced sweetness with a dry finish. Smooth, lingering aftertaste. Don't sleep on the pomegranate. And, speaking of sleeping, if you're looking for a sleeper pick, cotton candy might sneak in there, man. A delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla, the sweet side of tasty caffeine, a throwback flavor that'll transport you right back to your childhood days with a little bit of a boost, a light, airy candy profile. And it's not overly sweet. It's nice and balanced. So if you are looking for some new flavors, I think these are some things that you should check out from 5 Hour Energy. Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy. Shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Ayrton Osley of USA Today and Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion with your San Francisco 49ers. And guys, I want to start with the Max Crosby thing because this is just such an interesting story to me, just because of the Ravens seemingly kind of manipulating some rules to be able to go get off of Max Crosby, maybe having some buyer's remorse. They initially agreed to trade 2 first-round picks to the Raiders, and that's a steep price. I don't think the Ravens have ever traded 2 first-rounders for a player in the history of their franchise. I don't think they've ever done that. And while they're not the oldest franchise in the NFL, they've still been around for 30-ish years at this point, 30-plus years, and it seemed a little fishy that almost immediately after they fail Max Crosby fails his physical, and they announce that they're not doing this trade anymore, kind of back out of it, use that as the excuse. We wake up this morning to find out that they signed Trey Hendrickson to a 4-year, $112 million deal. And Max Crosby's going back to going back to Las Vegas. And at this point, you have to assume everybody in the league knew about the knee issue that Max Crosby had. The Raiders shut him down for the last 2 games of the season because of the same knee issue. So this wasn't a secret. This wasn't something that just popped up in the physical. This is something that everybody in the NFL knows about. And it just seems like a little bit of cold feet from the Ravens. Dwayne, are you kind of getting the same vibe?
Hey, I think it was one of those overpaying for someone with a bad knee. And he has an ACL, but you go back and look at it as, well, once the Ravens said, we're giving up two first-round picks for an injured player. We don't know when he'll be ready to play. Oh, that's what changed the whole outcome of the deal, and they had to do it before the window opened for free agency. I mean, that would have put him in a real bind, because then once they made the trade, he was there, regardless, I think, of the physical or not. Mm-hmm. But now it's creating a problem now for other teams too, and the other teams don't want to do business with the Ravens on trades, because if they backing out of them, who want to be in that situation?
Yeah, and the asking price of 2 first-rounders for Max Crosby, now that the Ravens have kind of backed out of that, Ayrton, do you see the price for Max Crosby dropping, and does it drop low enough that the 49ers might be able to get in on this?
Potentially, yeah. The biggest players I see for Crosby still are probably going to be the Chicago Bears. They got that extra second-round pick from the Bills in the DJ Moore trade. So I'd keep an eye on what the Bears may do, considering how Max Crosby could be a fit for Dennis Allen's defense. Dennis Allen typically likes those bigger, longer edge rushers like he had in New Orleans. So I'd say Chicago's probably going to be in on him. The Cowboys always said that they were curious about him. I don't know what picks they're using, considering they have 2 in the top 100 and it's only in the first round this year. So I would be curious what exactly they do with that draft capital and how they make the money work. But with a player of Max Crosby's caliber, I think the 49ers have to at least check to see, like, okay, we're not going to give you 2 1s, but we ended up with an extra 3 compared to what we were expecting from compensatory picks going into this draft. Could a 1 and a 3 be enough to get it done? Could that be enough just because the Raiders have to be sitting there going like, all right, so we couldn't get that. What's the next best option? Because this is a team that was looking forward to having that extra draft capital to build around Fernando Mendoza going into the future. And it's kind of Crosby just doesn't match that timeline of them rebuilding with Mendoza. So I think if it gets to the point where a 1 and a 3 would be viable, if the 1 and a 2 doesn't materialize from other teams, Niners have to get in on that, at least see about it.
Yeah, and I think that it's really interesting that the Raiders made all these other really big signings. Like, I don't know that there's a team that's been more active than the Las Vegas Raiders in free agency so far, giving out a ton of money. And I think you might need, like, I'm not a cap expert. I have a degree in words, not numbers, and I don't claim to be a good mathematician. But the math doesn't seem to be mathing when I look at what the Raiders cap number is with Max Crosby still on the roster and all these other guys coming in. I don't know how they're going to make that work financially, and maybe they have some cap gymnastics they can do to make it work. I am not an expert on the cap in any way, but it seems to me like either they got to pull back some of these contracts, which they still can because they're in the legal tampering period and none of these things are officially official yet. But it kind of seems like they've backed themselves in this corner where they almost have to get rid of Max Crosby. So, Dwayne, do you expect other teams to kind of use that as leverage against the Raiders and maybe push this all the way to the draft? And, I mean, the 49ers are no strangers to draft day trades. Would you be upset if you hear instead of the 27th overall pick, the 49ers select insert player here? The 49ers have traded the 27th overall pick to the Las Vegas Raiders, and in comes Max Crosby playing defensive end opposite Nick Bosa.
Well, it would be a great call, I think, but you got to look at what the 49ers are going to do now on defense, too, without Max Crosby, because they have other needs, too. You know, we talked about they need a safety, and they need another corner. There's some things that they need, and they sitting at 27th, and I've been saying it all along, is if I'm sitting there at 27th, I'm going for volume, okay? And he said it earlier, is the 49ers have a problem with depth. That's what showed up last year was that depth. They didn't have enough depth going down the stretch, and that's what you're going to look at. And it's going to be more good players that's not going to be in the first round. It's going to be like a bottleneck of lower round draft picks that's going to be the heart of the 49ers defense if they use it right. And if they're scouting, if they're doing that homework scouting, it's a lot of players out there that's going to be able to fill some of the needs that they're going to need down the road to win the Super Bowl. You know, first round draft picks don't win Super Bowls. It's the other guys.
and you don't have to look far to see an example of that, right? Like you just look just up north, just up the Highway 101, maybe not just up the Highway 101, but you look at Seattle and you look at the way they built that defense through the draft, through middle round picks where they were getting guys that were maybe not projected to be star players, but they were all very solid guys. And all of them have worked out, almost all of them have worked out for the Seahawks, and they have created such a cohesive group. And when I look at the 49ers draft capital and the fact that they have 5 picks in those third and fourth rounds, in those middle rounds of the draft, Ayrton, are you kind of seeing a scenario where the 49ers just rip the page directly out of the Seahawks drafting strategy book and just let's just run with this. Let's just build this whole defense through the draft, get some safeties, get some corners, get some edge rushers, maybe get another linebacker, just build the entire defense through this draft. Do you see that as a possibility for the 49ers in those middle rounds?
Absolutely. And it's an ideal class to do that with, where you see a lot of depth. I've been beating the drum again and again. This is one of the best linebacker classes we've seen in the last 10, 15 years. You could get a linebacker easily in the third round who a year ago would have been a second round pick, just because the depth at that position is so good. A lot of these cornerbacks, you're not necessarily going to get a lot of top end ones. There's only one Mansour Delane, in my opinion, who's a slam dunk top 10 pick, but you get a lot of guys 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", with length and speed that you can really build into and mold into a good player, develop into a good player. And it doesn't even have to be all of it right now, because you got Diamador Lenore, you have Upton Stout in the secondary to be those reliable guys as you bring them along. Same goes with safeties. A lot of good safeties in this class with great ball production, good athleticism. They can fit in different schemes, whatever Morris wants to run. And again, you have some of those veterans in the room at the key positions. Like, hey, if you're a safety and Fred Warner is in front of you, you feel a little bit less like, oh man, it's all on me. I can look at Fred. He's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to be able to lean on him if I need to. So looking around, this is ideally, that's what I would love to see, is use those, extra third round picks. You got three comp picks in the fourth round. You got extra picks everywhere. Just build it out with this draft, which has a lot of good viable options day 2 into early day 3.
And when I look at what the 49ers have done in free agency so far, beefing up the offensive line, going out and getting a number 1 wide receiver, you still got Ricky Pearsall, who hopefully can materialize into a legitimate number 2, at least behind Mike Evans. If nothing else, the Mike Evans signing buys the 49ers at least one extra year of not needing to go out and find the next number 1 wideout in the draft right away. At least that's my perception. And maybe this puts the 49ers in a position, if you're able to hang on to Trent Williams, which, by the way, let's just get this out of the way now. Adam Schefter most recently reporting that the 49ers are not shopping Trent Williams around, and that it doesn't seem like they're going to actually trade him at this point, but it seems more likely, at least to Adam Schefter and his sources, that he comes back to the 49ers. So they just got to find a number that works for both sides. Obviously, Trent Williams wants to be paid like the best tackle in the National Football League, which I don't blame him. But for the 49ers, can you actually afford to do that? And what's that look like? And yada, yada, yada. Can you get it done? All that remains to be seen. But just reading the tea leaves, if what Schefter is saying works out, let's just pretend Trent Williams comes back. You already got all these other offensive linemen that you've signed for depth that are going to come back next year. Maybe you still need to go out and find a viable guard. That might still be a thing that you need to do. But now you're in a position where there's no pressing need to draft a wide receiver with that number 27 overall pick. There's no pressing need to have to draft a tackle with that number 27 overall pick. You are now in a position where you can just go out and take the best player available, which is absolutely the best scenario to be in the draft. So Ayrton, I know you got to get going here in just a couple minutes. So last question for you, buddy. If the 49ers are able to just go and take best player available, who are you thinking might slide to them at the 27th overall pick? And can they get a steal there?
I absolutely think they could get a steal there, especially looking just ahead of them on the draft. As far as who's drafting just ahead of them, you see Philly, Cleveland, Chicago, Buffalo. Those are teams with very defined needs, in my opinion. So they're going to be looking for specific guys. The nice thing is, I look at the 49ers and I think their moves, what they've done, have really opened up, in my opinion, a chance to go get Caleb Lomu, one of the Utah tackles. He's one of the younger guys, more developmental piece, very athletic, very good in pass protection. A lot of folks, myself included, draft experts, want to say Lomu may be better starting out at guard and then moving to tackle. And I think that's a great idea. You start him at one of the guard spots. He eventually takes over for Trent Williams at left tackle. That's a great off-ramp if we want to use that. If not, there's plenty of edge rushers that could be available at that spot that are good plug-and-play guys. You look at a guy like Akeem Mesidor, who is Ruben Bain Jr.'s teammate at Miami, older prospect. But some people kind of like his tools a little bit more than Bain. He's got more length. He's got decent productivity. He could be an option there. Looking at this cornerback class, there's some of the safeties. If a safety falls, I mean, if Emmanuel McNeil Warren falls, that's an option. I really would like if Dylan Thieneman potentially fell from Oregon's Dylan Thieneman fell, because, again, safety could be undervalued considering the depth. You get a guy like him, he's my 18th best player on my big board. If he slides all the way to the late 20s, that's a great call for that defense. And again, just looking around even more, it doesn't pressure you to take a wide receiver. You can go edge, you can go offensive line, you could go secondary. It just opens it up where it's like you look at, heck, you could even potentially get a wide receiver if he falls. You get somebody like Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana. If it's like, oh, hey, you know what? That makes sense, but we don't need him to be our number one wide receiver right away. Easy. That's awesome.
And then if that does happen, if they do get a Boston or a Cooper Jr. or someone like that to fall to them, a KC Concepcion, maybe now when you're looking at that wide receiver room with a Mike Evans, a Ricky Pearsall, who is hopefully healthy, a George Kittle when he comes back, and now a first-round pick wide receiver, I don't think I'd feel too bad about that. That you can work with that. You can do something with that. So we'll see what the 49ers do. But one thing's for certain, they have absolutely kind of opened up some of their options with what they can do in the draft with what they've done in free agency so far, which I think is the best thing that they could have done for themselves so far in free agency. Ayrton, we'll let you get on out of here, man. Thanks for your time today. On the other side, Dwayne and I got some more stuff to go over. We got to talk about all these other 49ers signings that they've made and how they're going to fit in with this team. That's what's coming up next here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And right now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Wow, that's a mouthful. College basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits. And then you can mix them. You can add them all together and you can apply that profit boost and instantly bump that potential payout. Go safe, go bold. Ride with the team you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, now with even more upside behind it. And unfortunately for Triple E, you guys know if you're a P1 of the show, if you're an everydayer, you know I'm a big Stanford hoops guy, and Stanford unfortunately already eliminated from that ACC tournament at the hands of Pitt. Man, I did not see that one coming, but a ton more college hoops action coming up with March Madness right around the corner. So head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and joined by Dwayne Board, four-time Super Bowl champion. I just can't get the words out today with your San Francisco 49ers. And man, there's been a lot going on in free agency so far, a very, very, very active free agency. But Dwayne, one thing we have not seen so far is a Mac Jones trade. And the one thing that I keep seeing, the narrative that I keep seeing out there, the storyline, the headline I keep seeing is that there's a reportedly astronomical, that's the term that's being used, astronomical asking price for Mac Jones. And do you think that asking for a first or a second round for Mac Jones, considering the amount of teams that need quarterbacks and what the quarterback market looks like, do you think that's too steep of a price for the 49ers to be demanding for Mac Jones?
Well, right now they're playing the odds right now. They're hoping that somebody's going to step up and offer them that high price. But you got to look at what's in the draft and who do they think can come in right now and help a team. But we're only looking at one. Mendoza is the only quarterback right now that probably can come in and start right away. The rest of these guys are guys that's going to have to sit and wait. So the 49ers, as they're getting closer to the draft or draft day, they'll come off that price because it'll be something out there that they're going to say, well, let's move Matt Jones right now and get these 2 draft picks or get this 1 draft pick. It depends on how high it is. But I can't see them pricing themselves out of a chance to better the team with a draft pick or 2 draft picks or a draft pick and a player.
And I mean, when I look at the quarterbacks available in the draft, right, it's Fernando Mendoza. And then I know a lot of people have been kind of high on Ty Simpson lately. He's been rising up people's draft big boards, but past that, the drop off is pretty severe, man. I don't think that there's a lot of teams out there that are expecting to get a quarterback through the draft. But I do think that a lot of these teams who are kind of thinking about drafting a quarterback in that first round, I think a lot of them are thinking that Ty Simpson might still be there. And I think one of these teams might be pretty thrown off when he's not, because I think he's going to be drafted before a lot of people think he will go. I think that there's going to be a quarterback needy team that's going to take a risk and just, draft Ty Simpson way ahead of probably where he should go. But after that, I mean, the drop off is steep. So do you think that there's a possibility where the 49ers actually do get maybe a second round pick for Mac Jones? And what do you think is kind of too little for the 49ers? Like, is there like if someone offers a 4th rounder and that's it for Mac Jones, are you hanging on to Mac?
Yeah, you're gonna hang on for him. You gotta hang on. You gotta hang on with him for a 4th round draft pick, because you look at now who's the backup. They don't have a backup right now. So, as a 4th round pick, no. As a 3rd round pick, I would contemplate that a little bit too. You're thinking, well, no, not a 3rd round pick, because you look at in the quarterback room with a 3rd round pick, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, 2nd round pick, you go for it. Okay, or maybe you get a 2nd and a 3rd, which is a great deal. And going back, and we talked about looking at the draft, rather than drafting for need, you're drafting for a lot of speed. You want to draft speed and players who can be one of the guys that can step in, when the season starts at one position. Or one thing about it, when you get depth, it creates competition. And right now, the 49ers don't have that depth to create competition, okay? They need to pick people who can compete for the guys that's already on the team to take somebody's job.
Yeah, and I think that's no more that applies so much to 2 specific position groups when I look at this 49ers roster, and that's offensive line and safety. And I know that we got some question marks at corner, but you got Diamador Lenore, and you got Upton Stout. I'm a little curious, Dwayne, a guy that we haven't talked about a whole lot this offseason, Renardo Green, who had some up and down, his rookie year with the Niners. I think he really shined, especially at the end of the year. I think he showed some stuff last year, but he also got exposed at times last year. What are you feeling about Renardo Green right now? Do you think that this is a guy who is going to start the season as the number 2 cornerback, and you'll leave Upton Stout in the slot with Diamador Lenore at the number 1 corner position? Or do you think Renardo Green is going to have to compete for his job?
I think he's going to have to compete for his job, because I saw him getting targeted a lot last year. It seems like that was the plan with a lot of teams when they went against the 49ers. Was like, okay, who are we going after? And they went after him quite a bit.
Yeah, he allowed a 55.1% completion percentage and 450 passing yards against him in last season. He started 14 games, 60 tackles, 10 passes defended, 0 interceptions, though. And that's something that I think this team really needs at the cornerback position, is a guy who has some ball skills, a guy who can go up and make a play. And Diamador Lenore also isn't really an interception machine at his position at the number 1 spot on this team. And I do think that Lenore has that number 1 spot locked up. But do you see it the same way, Dwayne? Do you think that Lenore is safe, or do you think he's also going to have to compete for that number 1 spot?
I would say him too. I would put him in that boat too. Him competing for that number 1 spot also, because we can't just say it because we're saying it. The 49ers lack pass rush too, okay? But still, you need depth there, even though you think that they're safe. They're not safe. They need more depth in the whole secondary, I think.
Yeah, and the other guy, let's just round it out. Let's bring Upton Stout into the conversation too. I know I have been really high on Upton Stout, especially the way he ended last season. Felt like this guy was sticking his nose into every play, like every 3rd down, this guy was involved in some way, whether he was breaking up a pass or making a tackle. Felt like Upton Stout was just flying around at the end of last season. How are you feeling about Upton Stout? Are you buying the Upton Stout stock right now, or is this a guy that you also want to kind of wait and see what you got, especially considering Renardo Green kind of had a similar path where he came on really strong at the end of his rookie season and then kind of dropped off a little bit in year 2. What are you expecting from Upton Stout, and can he avoid that sophomore slump?
I think he can avoid that sophomore slump, because he came on late in the season, and I thought every game he got better and better. And just watching his game, you could see him working to improve on certain things. And I think he's a guy that's going to come on strong in his sophomore year. I really do.
Yeah, and as far as what you saw from Upton Stout, what really stood out to you as far as his improvements that he made over last season? What was the biggest area of improvement that you saw from him?
I saw his tackling. He became a ferocious tackler. He bought it when he was probably when when I talk about the old Woo Lick, he's got that Woo Lick capability in him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really nice to see him just continue to grow in this offseason and really cement something for himself in this 49ers defense next year. So we'll see if he's able to make that leap. I think that he's going to be able to. Personally, I really, really, really like what he does out there on the football field. But it's not to be. I don't think we can really assume anything the way that things have gone down. And by the way, Dwayne, we just got some breaking news right now, just within the last few minutes. The chat kind of giving us an update here. Osa Odigizua to the 49ers. The trade is in. It's a third-round pick that the 49ers are sending back to Dallas. What do you feel about this trade? Breaking news just happened just a few minutes ago.
Well, Jerry Jones must have sold somebody on something because, as I said earlier, Jerry Jones don't let a player go. That's a real football player. So there must be something to it. Maybe it don't fit the scheme now that they have a new defensive coordinator. Maybe he's the guy that Jerry feels like, well, we already got two of them sitting in the same position. So that might be it. But as a football player and being a coach, there's something to it because you don't want to get rid of a guy with that can help you win a championship.
And as far as the cap goes, in all those implications for this season, he's guaranteed $16.75 million. 2027, that number jumps to 20.5, and it stays at 20.5 in 2028. So the 49ers do have him under team control for the next couple of years. Dallas takes on a $16 million dead cap hit. So the 49ers, at least for this year, it doesn't seem like they're on the hook for too much of this guaranteed money with Odigizua. So it's not going to be some astronomical contract that you're taking on as well. I kind of like this. I think this gives the 49ers some versatility, especially with that penny front that we're talking about. I mean, you can send a lot of different looks out there. You can go real big with an Alfred Collins and a CJ West and a Mikael Williams, and then maybe put some fast guys on the outside, or you can just go pure speed, pure rush. You can put Mikael Williams at the nose, Osa Odigizua and Nick Bosa out there on the as far as your down linemen, and then put two linebackers at the edge, and you have now just a really formidable pass rush up front. I like the versatility. I like the move. As far as the fit with the scheme, what do you think that his traits, his talents will add to the versatility that the 49ers have up front?
Well, I think moving him around, he's capable of playing both sides. And when you got a player like that, it really helps your defense quite a bit. But as far as how he will be used, it will be used in Morris's blitz package. He's going to find a way to make him, to utilize him and to make him help the team, help the secondary with pressure. And that's the thing that we didn't see last year, too. We didn't see pressure. And one thing that bugged me a lot last year was when the quarterback got out of the pocket, they didn't have nobody to go get him. You know, they didn't have nobody to go rush, to go run him down. And Osa can do that. He can go once he gets his off the blocker. He closes, okay? So that's something that we didn't see a lot of last year. They didn't have that closing speed on the defensive line.
Yeah, and in his tenure in Dallas, he had 17 sacks, 34 tackles for loss, and 2 forced fumbles. So this is a guy who can make some plays. And I think the 49ers really lacked some guys who could make some plays up front last year, especially after all the injuries. When you're looking at what the 49ers have done so far with this defensive front, Dwayne, do you think that the talent is improved from last year? And if so, by how much?
Well, I would probably say the talent improved quite a bit. I would probably say up in the high 80s to 90%. But the thing that you still would like to see them find another linebacker with speed too, to go along with the guys that they already have, because once the injuries started happening, they didn't have nobody coming off the bench, and that's another shallow area of depth for them, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they got to get. It would be really great if Zach Martin could just get going. You know, like this was a guy who does have that speed and was a very good pass rusher in college. And if he could just tap into some of that, and I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to when you got Fred Warner next to you, and now a pretty talented defensive defensive unit in that front four. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to kind of build on that. I mean, you got the guys they drafted last year, obviously the CJ West, the Alfred Collins, and Mikael Williams trio, where those guys are all obviously better going into this season than they were coming into last year, and that talent is obvious. Hopefully Bosa is healthy when we start the season, and hopefully he's able to hit the ground running. And when you add Odigizua to it and bring back Sam Okawanu, I'm starting to like the makeup of this group up front. So we'll see what happens. But ultimately, the third round pick for Osa Odigizua, the 49ers make a splash. And again, I don't think they're done. I think they are going to try and go out and add one more a bona fide pass rusher, whether that's bringing a vet in free agency, like maybe a Joey Bosa or something like that, or Khalil Mack or one of these other veterans that we've talked about in past shows, or whether that's going to get a young guy out of the draft. I think the 49ers are still going to go and add something to this pass rushing group. Don't go anywhere. We got a little bit more show left for you. On the other side, we'll put a bow on this one, wrap it up, and give you our final thoughts from the day. Don't go anywhere here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board. And Dwayne, a lot of stuff going on in today's show, breaking down the Mike Evans stuff to the other 49ers free agent signings, what the implications are for the draft, and of course, the breaking news of Osa Odigizua joining your San Francisco 49ers. Ultimately, a wide-ranging show, man, just in general. When you're looking at the whole picture, how are you feeling about this 49ers offseason so far? Are you encouraged by the moves that they're making? Is there any glaring hole that they haven't addressed yet, or are you satisfied with what they've done so far?
Well, I've looked at what they've done so far is that they've addressed a lot of the needs right now. And we talked about needs is, do you do it in the draft? Do you draft somebody for a need, or do you go out in free agents and find someone for a need? And they went out in free agents and found some of those guys that when you talk about need, these players, they're not someone that's going to be like a rookie need. These guys they played in the NFL, so you can put them in the game and don't worry about them. But when you got a young guy, especially offensive lineman, that when you put him in and he's got a block, the defensive front of the Seattle Seahawks, man, it's going to be hard on him. But now they got people who's played, and that's great. Now you go out in your draft, now you go get the players to make your team better. You go out and get some of those players that we talked about, the guys that's not going to be in the first round, but a lot of them in the mid rounds. You're going to go out and find your team right there. That's where it's all going to come from.
And hopefully the 49ers are able to build out that defense through those middle rounds of the draft. And it does, I think, put them in a really good position, the moves they've made so far, to allow them to just draft best player available, which is the best draft strategy you can possibly have, but you don't always have the luxury to do that. So hopefully the 49ers are feeling like they're able to just go out and just grab whoever is best for their football team out there at the time, and whoever is the most talented guy on the board still, because it's been a while since the 49ers, I think, have really been able to do that. But man, the Osa Odigizua to the 49ers, the more I sit on this, the more I'm getting excited about this move. I think this really kind of helps round that front into shape, and I think that it's starting to take form. We're starting to see what this team could be like, and it's already got a little bit more depth than it did last year. You know what you got out of some of these guys, and it feels like there's going to be a little bit little bit fewer moving parts up front. Don't forget, you still got Bryce Huff in that mix as well, the guy who I forgot to mention earlier. You got some dudes. You got some dudes there. Hopefully, they can all kind of cohesively work through the offseason and get familiar with one another, run some games up front in this next season, and get some pressure on opposing quarterbacks, because God knows the 49ers absolutely need to generate more pressure. And, of course, that will benefit guys in the secondary, that will make your whole football team better. So Osa Odighizuwa to the 49ers for a third-round pick. A great move by this team, in my opinion, so far. Of course, we'll see. That's my reaction right now. But we'll see how we're feeling about that move once we're about a month into the season, and see if we're still feeling like the third-round pick was worth it. But, Dwayne, that's about all the time that we got for everyone today. Appreciate all of you everydayers tuning in. If you aren't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button right now on the Locked On 49ers podcast or on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel, however you are tuning into the show. Dwayne, appreciate your time today. We'll be back at it. We'll see if we'll be able to get in a Friday show. We got some things up in the air. Maybe we'll be able to get you guys an early Friday show. We'll see if that's able to fit in. If not, then we'll be back at it next week here on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. Until then, we'll see you next time. Peace.